What's up, guys? Today is Tuesday, May 14th, 2024. Justin Coffin, Joe Danier down at Youngstown Studio. This is my first live show in 2.5 weeks, so it's been a little while. But as always, appreciate you guys watching, tuning in. Today, we're going to talk a little bit of Cleveland sports. We're going to talk a little bit about the Cavs situation. LeBron James, we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns and their upcoming schedule release, which will be tomorrow. And we'll get into several other things. We're going to get into some fun marketing stuff here in a little bit. We're going to get into some fun other stuff too. So again, appreciate you watching. Joe, I know you've been busy. I've been busy, so I haven't done this in a while, but how's life? Everything good?
It's been a rough one, but we're slogging through it.
So
I'm scrappy though.
You did the Kelly Pavlik event. I heard you were the ring announcer this weekend. And I unfortunately couldn't make it, but I heard it went well. Zion did her thing again, and everybody seemed to have a good time. Go well.
So before I did this announcement, there's expectations. If you're the ring announcer, the let's get ready to rumble voice has to be on par. And I'm not that guy, right?
Yeah.
And so before I'm playing around and I'm just, doing it. I'm like, there's no way. It's going to be the most subdued announcer on the planet. I got in there though, and you kind of feel the vibe. Boxing's a different animal. The excitement with the fans is off the charts. And I just kind of matched whatever the fans were doing, and it worked out halfway decent.
And that was more, there were a lot more younger people competing at that one, correct? Because Kelly Pavlik's gym up in Boardman, he trains a lot of the young and up and coming fighters in our area. I had attended that one 2 weeks earlier where you were doing the stream and doing all that stuff, which you said you had a whole lot on your hands with that.
Yeah.
But Kelly and I forget his name, but the other guy doing the ring announcing, which was really cool. That was a very well-run event. And boxing, like you said, a whole different animal. And the atmosphere, the level, it all went really well. And Danny, who we had on our show, won his bout against the dude from Honduras, knocked him out in the third or fourth round. And it's just very intense. So I don't know. I was talking to my buddy him and I were there, and I said, what would it take for you to get in the ring? Let's just say it's almost like a mirror image of yourself. So the person, the exact same height, exact same weight, exact same competitiveness level. What would it take for you to get in the ring for, let's say, 3 rounds?
I would do it. It wouldn't take much.
You would box against someone?
Doing stuff that I've never done before, is very exciting to me, just to see how it hold up. I love to drive a race car. I'd like to be one down on an NFL field. I'd like to do it all. Even if I get killed on that one, it's totally worth it.
There was a guy that was a heavyweight, and he was 300 pounds, and the guy he was going against was 240. And just him, the guy that was 300 pounds ended up losing. He got like a TKO type thing, but I'm all that guy has to do is land one punch square, and this guy is done for. And the amount of physical force those guys can take is unbelievable. So I tip my hat to them. That is intimidating to me. I don't know. All right, let me ask this: what would it take? Same weight ratio, but a professional boxer. Would you get in the ring for 1 round?
I would give them one punch, and it'd have to be tied to a big paycheck with lots of insurance coverages.
Yes, I would have to dance around for the best 3 minutes of my life to try to not.
Are you allowed
touched.
Just to run around the whole time?
Or you know how when they get tired, they're throwing all the jabs and stuff, they wrap them up. It's I would just do maybe 2 minutes of wrap up, 1 minute of running around. So, but they land one punch.
But they one of the stipulations, let's have them gloves, but have weighted wrists, so they're pulling down 20 pounds on each hand. That'd make it a little bit fairer.
Okay.
My favorite match was there was these little 85-pound kids that were going at it in the amateur thing. And just as you would expect, young kids and their energy. But to watch these kids use that youthful energy and just go with poise. I mean, they really got some restraint. But that was my favorite because it wasn't sit back and wait and play defense. I mean, they were just balls out for the entire time. It was so amazing to watch.
Balls out. They should really pull up their shorts.
Shorts are kind of tight.
But on a serious
hazard.
note, though, like we've had Zion down here on the show, and I mean, you like that kid's 14, but she is like straight muscle, straight intimidation. Like I'm like, I don't think I'd want to get in the ring for 1 minute with her because she would beat the shit.
Yeah. Well, and when you're talking to her, like outside the ring, sweet, smiling, whatever, she gets in that ring and she is a machine.
Game face. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it takes to be an athlete at the best level. Like, whether we're talking basketball, football, baseball, whatever it might be, it's like you can be friends on and off the court, on and off the field, on and off the ring, or in and out of the ring. But once you're in there, lights go on, you got that mindset, you're focused and you're ready to go. So
I was sitting right next to whoever Zion was fighting, their coach, and the coach is trying to get in Zion's head, saying some stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
I watched that girl like almost turn in the Incredible Hulk when she heard that stuff because it pissed her off and she even got that much more intense. I was like, dude, you're like, amping her up with saying this crap.
Exactly. So, well, as always on this show, wasn't prepared to talk boxing, but we start off with boxing. So why not?
Can I do a little segue into it?
Yeah.
Just as Joe was in the ring first time, Tom Brady getting in the announcer booth, it reminded me a lot of those players that don't really have the communications background, but try that. So in your opinion, how well do you think he's going to do carrying a broadcast?
Well, I'm glad you started that. Let's shift to that.
No shit. You mean I just segued you?
You segued me to that. So I can't use my my deal here. There's no transition on here. So Joe, well, that's good enough.
Okay,
it's good enough. But yeah, I think Tom Brady is. I mean, Tony Romo didn't have a communications degree, I'm sure, but Tom Brady is going to do a fantastic job because he knows the game of football. He is entertaining. He is another segue. Did you watch the roast at all? Did you see any bits of it? It was the best thing I've seen in a long time. Entertaining. Kevin Hart is a phenomenal host. They had Jeff Ross, the roast master, but we'll come back to the roast in a minute. But Tom Brady is gonna do just fine. That is a very controlled environment. He can study up on the teams for a couple days beforehand, a week beforehand, if he knows his assignment. And really, you're traveling into the city probably so if it's a Sunday game, you're probably getting there Friday night, Saturday morning. You're prepping. You're probably talking to a couple of the players, maybe a couple of the coaches, and you're doing your final prep work. He's going to do just fine. He's going to do great. He knows what he's talking about. He was they made a lot of rules around him, so he wasn't hitting the head too much. So he's going to be just fine. What's your thoughts on Tom Brady entering the ring?
I watch in anticipation because I think he has the intelligence to really be a good explainer of what's going on. And I think that's what the league needs a lot more, especially the Taylor Swift fans need to know what's going on the field.
Yeah.
And I think he would be able to explain it from from a quarterback's perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
If they fire Joe Buck and put him in his place, that would probably make this the biggest cherry on top that you can imagine.
But if you notice, so Joe, the main guy, the play-by-play guy is usually the broadcast guy, the guy that came up in journalism, the guy that came up as the communications major, whatnot, or had, relatives, family members in that business. The color commentary guy, your Tom Brady's, your Troy Aikmans, your Tony Romo's, formerly Joe Namath, guys like that are the guys that have played the sport. It's like George Costanza on Seinfeld. He's like, I've always wanted to be a commentary. And then Jerry's like, well, they usually hire, former players to do that, or guys actually in broadcasting. So, but with Tom Brady, yeah, he has a ton of experience. It's not like the old days when there was no social media. Like now, literally every player has a mic in front of them.
Right.
A third of the players probably have podcasts of their own or do other media stuff, whether it's like side projects or just like, whatever it might be with the local media. And then, you take a guy like Travis Kelce or his brother, Jason, they become popular through their podcasts, and now they have the whole Taylor Swift effect and all their fans.
So
you have a bigger audience.
If you were to hand pick anybody, current or past player, that you think would be the best commentator, you can select any player and put him in the booth and call a game, and you would say that is the prototypical perfect announcer, who would you pick?
I mean, can I pick Tom Brady? I think he's going to be great.
Okay.
I really do. The one guy I can think of that I know wasn't good at it, that's probably the best quarterback of all time or second best quarterback of all time, is Joe Montana. I think he tried it out for a while, like didn't work too well. Drew Brees is another guy. He was in it for a while and like not so good. So he's out of that now. But these guys find their niche and they get really, really good at it, especially if you have that cockiness, that little bit of, that little swagger to you, which Tom Brady totally has. If you're on the quieter side, it's probably not going to be to your liking, but you're also probably not going to be offered that job either.
And we had the Mannings who tried to do it, and they were just as annoying as could be. So like they had
a lot of people love them though.
Yeah,
a lot of people love them. The thing I don't like with them is it's a lot of stuff they do is predetermined, scripted shtick. So it's like they're trying to make it a comedy show. It's like, I want them just talking football.
Yeah.
Like if they just talk football, it's entertaining. But when they're talking about like, oh, let's put your face on Peyton's face and see how big your forehead would be, and like this and that, it's like, it's a little lame. It's a little like dumb. But when they have, it's just them talking ball, I think it's awesome. So my opinion.
I do think that they need some, I mean, it's good to have that quiet personality, but if you can get like a Terry Bradshaw, like self-deprecating humor,
yes.
And merge it with what Mannings are,
and especially
able to do.
if that guy isn't touching women inappropriately live on TV, like Joe Namath or Terry Bradshaw, they're probably excellent.
That helps.
Wait till the camera's off at the very least and be respectful to the women. So anyway, sorry.
But a little comic relief is okay. If you've got the ability to be entertaining at the same time, informative, there's your goal.
I think that's another guy. He has been a little cringeworthy of late, but he's obviously gained a lot of popularity since he started dating Taylor Swift. But Travis Kelce, I think, would be really good at that job. I see there's a comment there. Greg Olsen has done a really good job. He's a former tight end for the Cowboys. He's done a really nice job. So I think the guys that have the knowledge of the game, which most players do, obviously you need to be pretty well spoken, and then you have to have something. Yeah, there's got to be like a certain niche niche, I should say, that you have, like whether it's comedy, whether it's like timing, whether it's like Tony Romo gets on my nerves because it's always like, hey Jim, do you notice this? And it's like, and he like sometimes doesn't let the moment just play out. If you notice, really good broadcasters will, like, in a moment, they'll just shut up. They'll just let it play out and like let the fan noise come in and stuff like that. Tom Hamilton with the Guardians is one of the best to ever do it. He gets loud, but then you will also let the crowd play into it as well. So,
all right, now who do you think would absolutely be a train wreck in the booth? The biggest train wreck imaginable.
Now, the reason I'm saying this is I just saw him after he got drafted. So the NFL draft a couple of weeks ago, the Carolina Panthers took this wide receiver out of the University of South Carolina, and his name's escaping me right now, but he sounded like the coach from The Waterboy, the Cajun coach. And it was like blue, blue, it was just really bad. Like he was stumbling over his words. He was really, really bad. But he had this likable, he had a big smile on his face, and you could tell that's just who he is, but you wouldn't be able to understand a damn word he said. Right. So I cannot think of his name, but wide receiver, I think he was drafted like 31, 32 by the Panthers in the first round. But he would be probably the worst because, number one, you can't understand him. So he's got that like Southern thick accent, and it's like a drawl in there. So really, unless I've always wanted this. Do you have your main broadcasting crew, whatever, net, CBS, Fox, NBC, whatever, and then you have the home team broadcasts each game. I think that would be cool, whether it's the radio call, whether it's, like a Joe Thomas and whoever doing that gives you that option. Or a third option would be like comedians or someone that's just strictly entertainment that are like why the hell did that guy miss that tackle? Like they can swear.
Didn't Dennis Miller try that at one point?
The ESPN had Dennis Miller up in the booth for, I believe, 2 years. It was like him and Tony Kornheiser, who's more of like a journalist on the writing side, but gives a lot of hot takes and stuff like that. So I think those guys are fun, but it's like an acquired taste sometimes.
Yeah.
So you want your, like, I know you're not a huge Joe Buck fan, but you want your Joe Bucks. You want your Mike Tiricos. You want those main guys doing the biggest games, because for the national audience, they do the best job. Like they really do. They're painting the picture. Even if you're watching it, they're still pointing out things you maybe didn't notice. But then those color commentators come in and then they give like the, like the football side of it, or like the in-depth X's and O's type stuff.
Now, what was your feeling on Madden as like, is he the most biggest legacy announcer that will ever be? Late stage Madden was hilarious.
Here's an interesting fact. Pat Summerall and John Madden together are now, like, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman have now done it longer than them. Put that into perspective. Isn't that weird to think about? Like, and maybe it's just the stages of life we're at, but those two have done it longer than Madden and Summerall. But I always said Pat Summerall was the guy in the booth that painted the picture real clear, and John Madden was the sloppy, like, spitting it out. But Pat Summerall was drunk half the time he was doing these games. Like, no lie, he was literally drunk in the booth. But John Madden sounded like he was drunk.
Yeah, right.
So I think Madden, I mean, obviously his legacy with that video game, and it's like that still carries on today. He was a large man on and off the field, and his legacy is and but the circling, the telestrator pointing this and that out.
Some of the most absurd things that he said were the most charming. Like, this guy over here is gonna do this, and then he's gonna do that.
Yeah.
Like, thanks, John, for the obvious commentary.
Because NFL football, or really football in general, like, football is the most loved sport in this country by far. It's like, I don't even think it's close. I'd say it's like NFL football, college football, then you probably have basketball. You can argue what's 3, 4, 5, but football is king in our country. And I'm not talking soccer. I'm talking actual NFL, American football is king. And those guys, there is definitely an audience of football people. Then there's an audience of people that watch football because their friends or family watches it, or their boyfriend or girlfriend watches it. And then there's the other faction that's like, it's just on, or hey, Taylor Swift might be on, or whatever. So football has a large audience that draws from a lot of different, like, fan bases. It's always the number 1 through like 40 TV shows in the country, like, all year. You go look at the Nielsen ratings. Super Bowl was like over 80 some million this year. But
so what is it about the game that makes it better than rest?
Well,
I mean, like the XFL, the Lingerie Football League, they didn't do quite as good as the NFL. So it's not the game of football. It's got to be more than that.
Well, I think it's the time of year. It's the absolute pinnacle of the sport. So, and a lot of people watch college football, and their favorite players from college football trickle up to the NFL. So I think that has to be the biggest draw to me, because, it's, I mean, NFL, like, I don't know what it is. NFL is king. Football is king in this country. And again, I think it's like anyone can relate to it. It's physical, it's fast, it's fun, there's hard hitting, but it's also pretty to watch. Really is. Like, whether it's,
you've never seen the Lingerie Football League.
Well, that's extra pretty. That's extra pretty, especially if you get a rough girl on the other side that's trying to nab some of the clothing.
Just part of the game.
Part of the game. Yeah, I mean, it really is. So all right, so
why'd you turn red just now? That's weird.
Well, I think it's the
liquor.
It's the tannins.
Yeah,
it's
gotcha.
the tannins that are.
Gotcha.
Well, that's wine, but I don't know.
I put some extra tannins in there.
Yeah.
Earlier.
So we transition to this because the Browns will open up against the Dallas Cowboys on, let's see, what is that, September 8th. So Cleveland, the Browns, are hosting the Cowboys Sunday, September 8th in Cleveland Browns Stadium. Tom Brady's first game as a color commentator, which is pretty cool because, in Cleveland, Dallas Cowboys, America's team, whatever you want to phrase them, they probably have the largest fan base in the country. I would say the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Browns, maybe throw in the Raiders, teams like that have the Patriots. Those teams have the largest contingent of fans in the country. And, this is a game all eyes are going to be on. So it's pretty awesome to open up in Cleveland against a team that went 12-5 last year in the regular season and, should bring a really good offensive attack. Their defense is pretty solid, but the Browns are right there, if not better, than the Cowboys. So it should be a fun game.
I haven't got to see the schedule. What are our preseason opponents?
So the schedule was being released tomorrow night. So we will know what it is, but we'll put this up on the screen. So the Browns, we do know they open up against the Cowboys at home. The following weekend, there's a Billy Joel Rod Stewart concert at Cleveland Brown Stadium on a Friday night. So there's no way they're going to be able to turn that around and get the field game ready for Sunday. So I can guarantee you the Browns will be away week 2. So we know the Browns are going to open up against the Cowboys. We are 99% sure they're going to open up week 2 on the road. And then from there, we'll see. But let me throw the away opponents at you. And then I want to let's rank the order of cities we'd want to travel to. Let's do that. So let's go through their away opponents. So we all know the division games: Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Baltimore. Those are their in-conference teams you play at home and on the road. Then we have Washington, Denver, Las Vegas, Philly, Jacksonville, New Orleans. So let's take Pittsburgh, Cincy, and Baltimore out because we play them every year. So let's just go through Washington, Denver, Vegas, Philly, Jacksonville, New Orleans. So that's 6 opponents. And I will even give you the caveat of Jacksonville could be in London. So you can pick Jacksonville or London as the destination for that. So let's rank them 1 through 6 of cities we'd want to go to.
1 being the best?
1 being the best, 6 being the worst. So, what would be your number 1 pick out of Washington, D.C., Denver, Vegas, Philly, Jacksonville? And I'll give you, again, the caveat of that being London and New Orleans.
Oh, Jacksonville, if it's in Jacksonville. I'm not fond of London. So
really?
86, yeah.
Okay. So Jacksonville's 1. What would you go to?
Las Vegas.
Okay. Jacksonville 1, Vegas 2. What would you go 3?
New Orleans.
3, New Orleans. Great city.
Yeah.
All right.
Probably Washington. I'd love to go to Washington.
Washington, D.C. 4.
Mm-hmm. Philadelphia.
Okay. 5.
And then I'm not going to Denver.
Because John Elway? John Elway might be there. Denver's a great city, by the way. It is. It's so good.
Only John Elway could ruin an entire city.
It really can. And speaking of Denver too, and we're not going to get into this today. This is a topic for a whole other show. The Denver airport's about as creepy of a place as it gets with conspiracy theories and all that. They have that huge horse outside. It's called Blucifer. It's literally a 20-foot high blue horse.
Demon horse.
Demon. Yeah. It's got red eyes. And this goes into the conspiracy theory of it. The guy that was the artistic person that did Lucifer, it killed him. It at one point he was I don't know what he was doing, welding or, doing something. And he suffered a severe cut. He bled out and died. So another reason not to think that Denver airport is a great place. So I think my ranking of these are going to be way different than yours.
Go for it.
All right. So I have never been to London. I've never been to England or Europe in general. So I'm going to rank Jacksonville or London. If London. I have a feeling the Browns are going to play Jacksonville in London this year. So that's just I'm going to say number 1, London. Number 2, got to go Vegas. Vegas is just I mean, if I'm only going there for like 3 days, I'm all in. If I'm going for 4 or more days, I'm probably not coming home because I'm dead. So 1 London, 2 Vegas, 3 New Orleans.
Okay.
New Orleans is one of the great cities in all of America. I've only been there for about 3 days, and that's again that's like a Vegas city too. It's just very different culturally. So 3, 4. I'm going to go to Denver. I like the mountains. I just hope I don't run into Elway out there. So that's 4. I'll go to DC 5. I will go to, what am I missing? Oh, and then Philadelphia 6. Philadelphia is cool, but I'll probably run the stairs and take a picture by the Rocky thing.
There you go.
Okay, so
there's a couple history things over that direction too.
Yeah, the Liberty Bell. Yeah, that's true. I actually have never been to Philadelphia. I've driven like on the interstate past it, going to New York, but never been to Philadelphia. So maybe I should put that a little higher on the list. So yeah, a couple, Ben Franklin. Did you ever see that movie with Nick Cage? What's that called?
Go steal the Declaration of Independence.
And then he ends up in Philadelphia and, all that other stuff. So, okay. All right, moving on. So that's our list 1 to 6. How would you rank them? All right, now let's talk about, I saw a list the other day and it had Deshaun Watson as the 27th best quarterback in the NFL. Now this was a ranking that came out before the draft, and obviously he's injured, so he's got a lot to prove. But let's just focus on AFC quarterbacks. Now we know Mahomes is the clear-cut number 1 in the NFL, regardless, until he gets knocked off. 2-time defending Super Bowl champion. I'm going to put up my list here. I'm going to have Joe put it up. And then I want Joe you can agree or disagree with my rankings, but I want CJ Stroud too. He has proven rookie of the year in the NFL. Josh Allen 3, Joe Burrow 4, Lamar Jackson. As long as he's healthy, he is great, but some teams can shut him down. And in the playoffs, he's obviously struggled. Aaron Rodgers, if he's healthy, again, I'm putting him at 6, even though he's getting up there. Justin Herbert, I have 7. Tua, 8. Again, if he's healthy, I think Tua and Deshaun are kind of like in the same ballpark. If they are both healthy, they are both scary quarterbacks, but they've been banged up the last couple of years. And obviously Deshaun had some off the field stuff. Trevor Lawrence, 10. Anthony Richardson / Joe Flacco in Indy, 11. Jacoby Brissett, Drake May. Drake May has a lot of upside, but Jacoby Brissett's going to be the starter in New England. Number 12, Will Levis, Mason Rudolph. 13.
I had to put that one on there.
Yeah.
It's like connected.
Well, if you notice from the 1 to 10, I only put the starters, and then 11 to 16, I put the backups included because that's kind of a fluid quarterback situation. So Will Levis, Mason Rudolph, 13, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, 14. I love Justin Fields, but I hate the fact that he plays for Pittsburgh. However, it looks like Russell Wilson will be the starting quarterback. Those two, though, have combined for the most sacks and interceptions combined in the NFL the last 2 seasons. Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, your guy, 15. Hatred. And I think Gardner Minshew might end up being the starter there. We'll see, but we'll see on that. And then Jared Stidham and then Bo Nix in Denver. So Denver, which had John Elway all those years, which had Peyton Manning all those years, I put them at the most optimal quarterback spot, the least, so 1 to 16, I have Denver 16
well deserved
on that list
for Denver.
So yeah, they deserve it. They deserve a couple years of bad quarterback. How many years have we put up with crap at quarterback? So Jeez. And don't forget the Browns do have Jameis Winston as their backup this year. So who is, I know there was a lot of people that didn't like Joe Flacco letting him go and whatever, but they basically signed a younger, better version of Joe Flacco, in my opinion, with Jameis Winston. So any arguments on that list?
No, I like especially like your top 5. I think Joe Burrow is probably a little closer to Mahomes. I think Stroud's right up there. Allen's right up there. Aaron Rodgers, I'd drop him down. I just don't think he's going to have it in him like he once would. I think you're giving the benefit of the doubt that if he plays like old.
I think he's like 40 years old this year, and he's coming off a major injury.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, I think it's pretty right on. Justin Herbert, he's got a lot to prove, but man, he's got some talent. Brissett should probably be number one because I like him, and
yeah, he's a
and
good dude.
he really
He's
is
hard not to like.
Yeah,
But you never know. I mean, maybe by November, Aaron Rodgers is our vice president under RFK Jr. and we'll see. I think he has been eliminated from contention, but he was up there as a choice for a while. So, real quick check in on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, unfortunately, they are down 3-1. I'm gonna actually start with this one. They're down 3-1 to the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics 64-18 this season, by far the best team in the NBA. They have like an all-time net rating. They are number 4 all-time in net rating. That's how many points you win by each game. And the only teams ahead of them are the Golden State Warriors of 16-17, which blew every team out of the water, and then the Chicago Bulls of Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. Their Boston Celtics are actually tied for 3rd on that list, which is incredible. But the Cavs blew the Celtics out in game 2. They got blown out in game 1, blew the Celtics out in game 2. Were kind of right there in game 3, but couldn't finish. And then game 4 last night, went back and forth. The Cavs actually took the lead in the 3rd quarter, but they didn't have their best player. You could argue their 2 best players at all yesterday in Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen. So unfortunately, their season is most likely over. But there's going to be some changes in the offseason. I'll save that for a separate podcast. But at last night's game, LeBron James was in town. And I posted this earlier, and I said, this guy is smart, LeBron James. He is very smart. He is very calculated, maybe the most calculated basketball player ever in the history of basketball. So here's some theories put together. He is using Cleveland as a bargaining chip to get what he wants with the LA Lakers. He has a player option, which means it's like $50 million for this coming season that he can opt into. So he can just basically say, all right, I'll sign that. I'll opt in. I'll play for the Lakers next season. And then he's in. Or he could opt out, become a complete free agent over the, next year. He can sign with any team for any amount of money he wants, up to the max. So could he be using that as a bargaining chip to get what he wants with the Lakers? Maybe a 3 or 4 year deal for a 39-year-old player whose skills may be starting to slightly diminish, even though he's still a top 10, top 15 player in the NBA. Could he be checking out the Cavs for a potential return next season? Which teammates does he want to keep? Which teammates does he want to go? So that's option number 2. Number 3 is, hey, Cavs GM, you got the 20th pick in this year's draft. My son, Bronny Jr. is in the draft. Why don't you take him? And if you take him, I'll come back to Cleveland and finish out my career.
Has that ever happened before? Father-son duo?
Not in the NBA. It has happened in Major League Baseball with, I know Griffey's come to the mind, Ken Griffey and his dad, but in the NBA, no, like players just don't play as long as LeBron James. It's like, and if you have a kid at like 18, hypothetically, and let's even say, that your kid's really good at age 18, you're still 36 years old. LeBron's 39. His son played a year in college. I believe he's 19. He has been at the NBA draft summit this week. So he's actually been showing off his skills. Keep in mind, his son is only 6'2". He averaged 6 points a game this year at USC. He is not LeBron James, no one's LeBron James, there will probably not most likely be another LeBron James for another 30, 40 years, type player. But if you knew you could draft his son and LeBron would come play for your team next year, and maybe he even gives you a discount. Maybe he's like, instead of 50 million, I'll play for 20 million, and you could still retain your roster. You draft his son, you just stash him at the end of your bench or play him in the G League, but he still travels with the team, all that stuff. But you get maybe the best or second best basketball player of all time, a current top 10, top 15 player in the NBA, and you're just adding him to your team. No trades necessary. No, maybe you got to waive a player that makes like a couple $1 million here or there, but you're adding a starter, a really good starter, and could be the missing piece to a possible championship team. You got to think about it at the very least.
Right.
And then I put option 4. He's just in town. Maybe he's visiting his mom, Gloria, for Mother's Day. It was just Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, by the way, to all the moms out there. Or maybe he's just checking out his old, his old stomping grounds.
Just chilling.
Yeah. I mean, he's still got the house in Bath, which is outside of Akron. And so I don't know.
All right, so let's
out
just
of those
say
4 options, what do you think are the most plausible?
the bargaining chip.
Okay.
I think he's soliciting options at the very least to get a better deal from. I know he knows his clock is ticking, and to put himself under contract for 4 years allows him to bow out gracefully, and knowing that he doesn't have to sign another contract. I think that's smart. So, question for you.
Yes.
Let's just say LeBron James' son changes his name and he goes incognito. He plays college. Does he declare for the draft, and does he get selected without that last name?
No. Will he get drafted? Potentially, like late second round, probably a rookie free agent, like undrafted free agent. Probably not. But that name brings a lot of name brings a lot of cachet with
Cabbage.
it. Yes. So I don't know. I know like his best scoring game in college was 15 points.
He's just an average player. He really is.
Yeah. That's exactly. Yeah. And maybe he will grow. Like I heard he's put on 10 or 15 pounds of muscle since college. And so over the last like 3 months, he's put on 15 pounds, but he's still, LeBron is 6'8", 250 pounds. His son is, I don't know what he weighs. I'm going to guess, let's just say 210, but he's 6'2". That's what I'm not comparing myself to his son, but I mean, there's a huge difference between 6'2" and 6'8" in the NBA. That's a huge difference. And like, we're just talking measurables, not alone skill and talent and all this other stuff that comes with it. So I don't know. I think you're right on. If his name was Billy Evans, he's probably not getting an opportunity. But his name is Bronny James. So.
I think what happens though is with that amount of pressure that it puts on that kid to perform, either he goes in one direction where he just falls apart and becomes a dumpster fire, or he rises to the occasion and develops the skills and he becomes maybe not in the same, strata as his dad was, but he'll set a name for himself. But it's not going to be in between. He's not going to just, float.
And I don't disagree with that. I really am. I feel like players like Michael Jordan's son, I know played in college, didn't make it to the NBA, but he was just like 6-7 point game of scorer. It's like no one, like when you have that name attached to you, whether it's Michael Jordan, LeBron James, whatever it might be, there is so much greatness that comes with that, but there's also so much pressure for the next generation that comes for that. And his younger son might be the better of the two players. Like he's still, I think he's entering high school or like younger in high school, but it's like, I feel for that kid.
Yeah.
Because,
sure.
he wants to play with his dad, and what kid wouldn't, or, what dad wouldn't want to play with his son if you had the opportunity. But this is like literally a once in a lifetime thing. Like this isn't something that is just like, yeah, that's going to happen again. Like there's a good chance this never happens again in a sport like basketball.
Yeah.
Baseball, maybe, because you can play a lot longer. It's less physical on the body, stuff like that. Football, no way. But I don't know. Like playing together is crazy to think about. But could you imagine them, like if he gets drafted by a really bad team maybe he gets in a game, and then LeBron, whether he's with the Lakers next year or the Cavs or another team or whatever, like playing against his son, that's kind of cool to think about too. So I don't know.
I always think it's cool when you have like more than one Watt on the field, or when you have brothers playing against one another. That's just a cool dynamic because, they've got freak genetics. They're all super talented players to have arrived the way that they did. To watch them go head to head is just amazing.
Yeah. And how many dads in their driveway have just swatted their little kid when they're playing? Right. This would be a chance to actually do that on an NBA basketball court at the highest level. So
it would be a merchandising dream to have those two.
But if you're writing a book, or you're writing a script for a movie, how fitting would it be to have LeBron from this area, start his career with the Cavs, leave because it just wasn't quite working out. You couldn't quite get over that hump. Goes to Miami, kind of figures it out, wins a couple championships there, comes back to Cleveland, wins that title, goes out to LA, does his thing out there, wins the bubble title, but still becomes the all-time NBA leading scorer, one, if not the greatest player of all time, and then finishes his career in Cleveland with his son on the same team. Not saying that's going to happen, or finishes out his career in Cleveland while his son is in the NBA, maybe he can play against him. That would be a storybook ending. Most stories are not storybook endings. Most stories like kind of fall apart at the end or whatever, but the opportunity is there. So it's kind of like we're in the fantasy stage of that's a potential possibility right now.
Well, remember, the conspiracy theorists over here, the powers that be have control over the narrative.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to see, they will make it happen.
I'm not gonna shut that down. So I am in the camp of bring LeBron home if it doesn't cost the roster shakeup. The Cavs will have some roster shakeup this offseason, but if it doesn't cost you your core players, then let's do it. Let's bring them home. If it costs you maybe one of the three core or one of the four core players, sure, let's go. then why not? So
have I let you keep the topic at one point during the show, by the way? Have I been pushing?
No, I think we've stayed on point pretty well.
All right.
So all right, let's switch topics now.
Let's do that.
So we'll close the LeBron James Cleveland Cavaliers story. And I really, 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 the only thing I will say, Donovan Mitchell being hurt last night was so unfortunate because you knew the Cavs basically were going to be outmanned from start to finish. And it's just unfortunate. But the Cavs played their asses off in maybe their last game in Cleveland, and I applaud them for that. So we'll just end that with that. Now, I have shown this before, and Joe, if you don't mind throwing this up, this is the shows, some of my favorite shows I have watched this year so far. So Curb Your Enthusiasm, finished great, started great, everything in start and finish was great. I would recommend that as my number one comedy of all time on the TV set. So HBO, watch it if you haven't watched it. You can go pick and choose. I did even like a top 5 list a few months ago about my favorite episodes. So you can go check that out. The Gentleman, great show, Netflix. Really well done. Very cool. Outside the box thinking. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but Fallout is a show I'm about 6 episodes through. I think this is another adaptation of a video game. Mm-hmm. And I think you mentioned that before to me, but this is a really, really good show. It's super weird, but super good. And it's like one of those apocalyptic type shows. So I got 2 more episodes to go before I finish the season. Excellent show. But still, and I'll probably get some pushback on this, still the best show I have seen so far this year and maybe in a while. I like to dip my feet into different genres. So I like comedy, I like horror, I like drama, I like mystery, I like just funny. But The 3 Body Problem is super sci-fi, but with so many like real life, what would you do aspects to it. And The 3 Body Problem to me is the best show I've seen all year. And do you know what it's about?
Well, I know from a physics standpoint.
Yes.
So does it follow? I haven't seen it.
So the 3-body, when we're talking about 3-body, we're talking about a 3-star like planetary system. So like as Earth, we have a 1-body problem, really. Or if you think about it, it's like, the moon orbits us, we orbit the sun, So it's like, but in this, I believe they call it like the Trisolarans. So they have a 3-body problem because they have a normal. This is like whatever the closest star system to us would be. The closest star to us,
Andromeda Galaxy.
Yeah, so that one, that would still take like 400 years to get here if you're traveling at like whatever speed of light. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, but the big problem is, and I'm not going to go through each and every detail, is there's 2 main things. If you knew, and we've been sending signals for dozens of years, decades, probably since the 40s, 50s, ever since we could communicate with, radio and TV, we've been sending crap to outer space, sending signals of, hey, we're here. Sorry, my chair keeps zoom up there a little bit. But like we've been sending, hey, we're out here, come find us. And it goes to that, it's like, I'm trying to think what that's called, but like, it's like, we're here. Where's everybody else? Like the, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like where are all the aliens? Like where are all the other life forms? Because, there's that 99.92% chance that we are not the only species out there, but there could be a couple reasons for that. One, maybe there were other species and they're all gone. Maybe they've been like eliminated. Maybe they don't want to be found. There's that dark forest theory where it's like, maybe if we identify ourselves, like there's a good chance that another species might come and try to wipe us out. So we're not going to even like announce the fact that we're here. So that's kind of like the gist of this. But the 3-body problem kind of takes you into, okay, we've been discovered. There is another species out there. I think they call themselves the Trisolarans in the book. And then I can't think what they call themselves in the show, but they're coming, but they won't be here for 400 years. So it gives you the hypothetical scenario on Earth. What would you do? Like scientists obviously want to, like everyone wants to and eventually save yourself, but we know we're not going to be around in 400 years. Our children won't be around in 400 years. Our great-grandchildren won't be around in 400 years. So it's like, it becomes a little bit of a moral dilemma. It's like, why don't we just live out our lives? I don't care, or it's like, no, we need to save humanity from this incoming threat that is going to take us over. And they even call us like bugs on the show. It's like, you are all bugs. And like, so there's this underlying threat that's out there, but it's not going to be here for hundreds of years. So it's not going to directly affect you. So what do you think about that?
Let them figure it out.
Yeah.
Like there will be better technologies in the future. Best we're going to do is make preparations that our kids are going to forget about to tell somebody. It's going to be all for naught.
Yeah.
And like the quest to save humanity, would humanity really put the energy into saving you?
Yeah.
So
right.
Screw humanity.
Yeah. Right.
Screw them.
Humanity just doesn't want me around. Come on, humanity.
Yeah.
No, but
jerk.
at the end of the day, it's like, it really is an interesting moral dilemma. It's like, what do you do? And I'm undershooting the show. Like, it's like, there's a lot more intricacies to this. It would take like a whole hour just to describe all the details.
We should have another like space and aliens show one of these days.
We'll definitely do that soon.
We'll revisit.
The summer is a good time for that because like the sports stuff dies down for sure.
Can I complain about some of these series? Because this is pissing me off a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think I started maybe in the last year 3 different shows, right? And I don't bother looking ahead to make sure that they were continued and not canceled.
Yeah.
And so I get ankle deep into these shows that I really like, and then they just abruptly end, never to be continued.
Yeah, that but you're only ankle deep.
I'm ankle deep, but still it had some good potential.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm hoping with this 3-body problem. It gets like, this is like the creators of Game of Thrones that did the adaptation for this. Like, it's a really good show. They put like hundreds of millions of dollars in this. It's like, and I spent 8 hours of my own time watching this. I want a second season, you know? So it's like, but yeah, when you put that investment of time in, it's like, yeah, you want to see the payoff. You want to see a second or third season, whatever it might be, however long they want to run the show. But yeah, it's like, I don't want to see these shows I really like get canceled. So
And this happening all the time, man.
Yeah.
It's such a pain in the ass.
yeah, so I'm not worried about those people 400 years from now. I'm worried about right now. Give me a damn season 2.
Me.
Exactly. So I'm interested to see how Fallout the first season will wrap up, and that'll go. But very interesting.
The video games get really weird. Like, they really took the most common and relatable parts of the video games and made the first season about it. But if it gets to the weird point, with the radioactive mole rats and the rad roaches, and it can get a little bit off the charts.
There's been some weird stuff in there already. There's definitely been some weird stuff in there. And like, these people, basically, to give you the gist of the show without spoiling it, is, it's apocalyptic times in the sense of like, Russia's got a nuke, we got a nuke, everybody hates each other, and eventually they land in the United States. It basically takes place in LA. And, these people, some of them go in these fallout bunkers. That's why the name of the show comes from. And then it's like, these people are living in bunkers, but the people that survived up on top are like compromised by radiation and like all these living things. It's like they're abnormal now. And it's like, there's a whole different world underneath and above, and they have to like figure it out. So it's interesting, but yeah, it's a good show. It really is. So I'm curious how it's going to end. So
did you ever see the show Upload?
No.
That's one to add to your list. And it's basically, when you die, you can take your consciousness and upload it into a computer, so you can live in a simulation. And so you have this inside-outside world where you have people that traverse, and they put on the goggles and they visit people that are simulated, their consciousness simulated, so they can interact with them, wear a suit, and have.
I think that's coming. Coming, where our physical bodies may only be around so long, but your mind, your consciousness could be around hypothetically forever. Really, if they can figure out how to keep your personality and like all that, that's going to be I don't think we're too far away from it. I think in the next 30 to 50 years.
There is a researcher that said that he has evidence that we are already in that simulation right now.
Show me the research.
It's scarce.
Yeah,
scarce
of course it is.
It is. Of course. But I'm excited. So
can't bullshit a bullshitter.
I want to believe this guy's got degrees and he's got a wild imagination. So I'm sure it's close.
He also has Bigfoot living in his backyard. So yeah, I am like all in on like, give me the, like, I want to know, like, I am so curious about aliens and life outside, and like, maybe they're here. Is there multiverses? Are there like parallel universes? Are there,
this show we do this summer is going to be off the hook.
Yeah.
I'm like writing a list of everything we're going to talk about right now.
Let's go. We'll have that could be, do a weekly theme.
So there's a couple of students up at YSU that are in the physics department that put some time into researching this stuff. We should have experts come talk about the multiverse, thermodynamics, and how it applies to physics of simulations.
How about, okay, I keep going.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I want you to be the host because you're smarter than I am. But I will have really good questions.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. That'll make it interesting.
Okay, perfect.
Like, you need the cynic's perspective.
Get a round table going. I think that'd be fun. I think that'd be really, really fun.
Now, probably not Bigfoot because it's harder to talk about. You don't have experts in it.
Yeah.
But the science stuff, we could totally do that.
But like some of that crap from, what's it called? Like the Skinwalker Ranch. I think that's out in Utah, maybe, or New Mexico. But like some of the stuff, like, and I know once TV shows start popping up, then it's like, is this just a money grab or is it like a legit science thing? But there are so many things. Like, there's two main conspiracy theories that I think everyone can relate to. One, are there aliens or what are UAPs, UFOs? Like, I think that is undeniable. We know, like, a UFO does not mean aliens. A UAP does not mean aliens. But who the hell is controlling those things? Are they drones? Are they from a different dimension?
Well, if you were
Are they
traveling 400 light years away, would you
Right.
go first or would you send a drone out?
I would send a drone.
Absolutely.
100%. So, but someone's in control of that. So who's in control of that?
Mhm.
So, and then 2, JFK. I mean, JFK was totally killed by the CIA or our
Yeah.
government. So, and I don't even think that's a conspiracy. Well, it is, but I think that's like the number one conspiracy theory of like the entire country of the USA. Like, so if you could poll a people on what do you think the most conspiracy theories are, I think those are 1, 2, what order you put them in. Yeah,
I have a local conspiracy theory here.
Okay.
So I'm gonna just use a little emotion on this one. So I don't know if you saw the Aurora Borealis the other day. Did you see it in person or just saw it? So,
but okay. So can I say, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Yeah, go for it.
I looked at it with my eyes and I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, but I could faintly see it. But I took the phone out and it became freaking glorious. It went from like looking at that ring light off, I could tell it was there, to looking at that ring light on. I'm like, holy crap, that's awesome. That's beautiful. So
that's my conspiracy theory. What would it take for your phone to dial in a recreation of what you were looking at? If you can't see it with your eyes and your phone is the only thing that can see it. Do you remember what the Android did with the lunar picture taking?
Did it?
So no, Android phones, if you take a picture of the moon, it takes the picture, but it fills in data from what it knows about the moon to make a more clear image. So you look at it, it's like, that's amazing, but that's not really what your camera saw.
So it's like AI generated.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So maybe the Aurora Borealis was just like a little weak, little disturbance. But then Apple was like, I got an idea. Let's make it glorious. Because we drove all the way up. I didn't know about the whole phone thing. You're supposed to look through your phone. And we drove up the Mosquito Lake, got a great view of the north sky. And I'm like, there's a little bit of red up there. It looks like a sunset, sort of like it's real bland. Like, I can't believe I drove all the way up here. And then everybody's got their phones out. I'm like, what are they taking pictures of? Like, this is the jerkiest picture I've ever seen.
Kind of reminds me of like certain Instagram models. It's like, whether it's guy or girl, I don't want to, but it's like, oh, you see them in person, like, oh yeah, they're attractive. But you see them on Instagram, like, holy shit.
Yep.
It's the filter.
Yeah.
Or it's like maybe the light, it can capture the light better or whatever it might be. So
I think it's completely concocted. I think
fake.
Do you know about HARP? Oh, we never talked about HARP.
HARP's up in Alaska.
Yeah.
And
but there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them.
They want to control the weather.
So they have these antennas that are super powered in the low band of frequencies. And they basically shoot these frequencies up into the ionosphere, and it makes the ionosphere overreact and create like a mini Aurora Borealis. So the theory is that if you've got, if the government can excite the ionosphere and they all power those suckers on all at once, you could totally create what we experienced last year.
Interesting. I've actually heard now, sorry, we're going way off the tangent, that scientists are actually trying to create, the scientists are trying to create more cloud cover to block out the sunlight to prevent global warming, because the ocean is the number one trapper of heat. So the sunlight hits the ocean, it absorbs the heat, the oceans get hotter and warmer. But if you have thick cloud cover, it bounces back. So
but the clouds would trap the heat in and create a greenhouse effect, because usually that heat radiates back into space.
There's no winning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but if you could use HARP to create like a massive thunderstorm and then attack your enemies using weather, like throw a hurricane at Russia or throw, a tsunami at China,
an earthquake would be the most devastating,
heck yeah.
Right?
So I think that's really what HARP's up to.
Okay.
But all they can do is excite the electrons in the sky.
That'll be week 3 of conspiracy theories.
Yes.
Bohemian Grove too. I'm telling you, look into that. We got a whole list. Send us your best conspiracy theories to Joe at Youngstown Computer,
Youngstownstudio.com.
All right, send us your best conspiracy.
Just
theories.
No Bigfoot. I'm not into Bigfoot.
No Bigfoot. No Bigfoot. Yeah, Bigfoot doesn't count. Bigfoot's not real. Probably not the Loch Ness monster either.
Yeah.
But we'll get to those later. All right. So I had like another whole segment. We really didn't even have any topics covered for the show except for two things, but we're gonna end it there. I'll save this segment for another one. But this was fun. I will not be here. So Joe, one more question for you. I am not going to have a show on Thursday because I will be going down to Lexington, Kentucky, the home of the Kentucky Wildcats, but also bourbon country. So if you had one bourbon, any bourbon in the world you could drink or go after, what would it be?
Just one. My goodness.
As I sip some bourbon now.
I have never had Pappy whatsoever. So if I'm going to take a shot at it and go to its maker down there, Pappy's it.
Okay. All right. I will report back next week. And
are you going to try Pappy?
If I can, for a reasonable, I'm not going to pay like $100.
So we went to a coffee shop, and the coffee shop sold bottles of bourbon, but they also sold it by the shot, $27 for a shot of Pappy's.
I would do a shot for $27. I paid $19 once for a shot of absinthe, which was in New Orleans. We talked about New Orleans earlier, and that was it was a little bit green. It was weird.
Did you get high, by the way? Because you're supposed to hallucinate.
I don't know, because I've never been high, so I don't know. Maybe I was. Maybe I wasn't.
Did they put it in some big apparatus and let it drip through it and all that kind of stuff?
I just remember them pour it. Like, I probably wasn't in a clear state of consciousness because I had previously been drinking probably hurricanes and hand grenades and all that stuff down in New Orleans. But yeah, absinthe. I don't know. I think they just poured it.
Yeah, I don't. In the United States, I don't think that portion of it is legal. I think you have to go to the
Germany
Netherlands
or something.
Yeah. Yep. And then they pour it through some sugars and some other chemicals, and it really gives
it's
you.
It's like Ecto Cooler when we were kids. Remember that? Like the Ecto Cooler thing.
I do.
So, all right, let's end it there. So for Joe, I'm Justin. We appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to follow Youngstown Studio and the 330 Sports Show. We will talk to you guys next week. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube